Greetings, audiophiles and Legend of Korra fans. Oh, who am I kidding? Welcome, Bolin fans, to my reading of my fanfiction, Castle of Glass. Legend of Korra and the characters therein belong to their respective owners and creators. The original characters and the premise of this story belong to me. Enjoy! Part 1. Kita. Bolin was following smells. He was alone again. His brother was with Korra, doing something official, he wasn't certain what. It wasn't really his business. His new girlfriend, Eska, well, to be honest, he was avoiding her. He still had bruises from their last date, where she had insisted on showing off her ice-bending powers by bouncing him several feet into the air. Honestly, it hadn't been that bad, but he wasn't in a hurry to repeat the performance. He smiled wanly at the memory as he strolled from shop to shop, tugging the collar of his coat higher to keep out the chill wind. Pabu was sleeping in a special pocket inside Bolin's winter wear, and he was glad of his furry friend's warmth. He wasn't used to the frigid temperatures here at the South Pole. He paused in front of a pottery shop to sniff the air again, trying to locate the origin of a particularly intriguing odor of noodles. He had always loved Southern Water Tribe dishes. Kita! A shout caught his attention. Bolin did not have time to wonder what a Kita was, as someone slammed into him full force and knocked him into the snow. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry! The young woman, who was now sprawled beside him on the cold ground, spluttered. The snow gathered beneath her and pushed her gently to her feet. She didn't stop to brush off the front of her Water Tribe attire or help him up. Instead, she shot him an impish grin and darted away down the street, between two buildings. Moments later, before Bolin was able to fully collect himself, a man rushed out the way the girl had come, scowling up and down the street. The man, also dressed in southern garb of blue and gray, looked down at the earthbender in the snow, his eyes widened. Did my daughter... He didn't finish. He didn't need to. Instead, he held out a hand and pulled Bolin to his feet. I'm sorry. Kita is a troublemaker. She always runs off, shirking her duties. Are you all right, young man? Bolin brushed snow from the front of his coat, feeling Pabu inside, wriggling with displeasure at nearly being crushed when his master had fallen. I'm fine. Bolin waved a dismissive hand, smiling broadly. He was. The snow of the street was packed hard, but it was still far better to fall onto than the stone streets of Republic City. Ah, good, I'm glad, said the man, also smiling, though his was thin. He had a day's growth of stubble on his broad jaw, and was wearing a shopkeeper's apron, Bolin noticed. My name is Torque. This is my shop. He gestured to the pottery store with another weak smile. Feel free to stop in at any time for the finest pottery in the Southern Water Tribe. I will, said Bolin, wondering how he could walk away without seeming rude. A few of the people in the street had recognized him as a friend of the Avatar, and some of the children were pointing. Bolin normally relished attention, but he had been trying to keep a low profile. No sense getting spotted by Eska before he was ready for her. He noticed that Torque was still looking up and down the street with annoyance on his features. Hey, how about I find your daughter for you? I'll send her right back, Bolin offered hastily. Would you? The man seemed cheered. I can't leave my store to go look for her, and she still has chores. You can count on me. Bolin stood straight, giving an exaggerated salute. He turned on his heel and marched comically away in the direction he had seen the girl run. He wasn't certain that he would be able to find her. A waterbender in a city of ice. That would be like finding a needle in a haystack without metal bending. He rubbed the back of his neck, wishing he could go back to following those smells. The alley the girl, Kita, had gone down was empty, so he followed it onward. He idly wondered what Korra and Mako were doing. Korra had insisted on separating herself from her teacher, Tenzin, and if he was honest with himself, Bolin missed the old airbender. He wasn't entirely certain that Korra had been right to send her mentor away, even as more and more weight piled onto her shoulders. He silently wished he could help bear the weight with her. The sting of her rejection was still a fresh wound, though he would never show it. So lost in thought was Bolin that he didn't realize he was walking out of the main thoroughfare and into a park. The frosted trees, which were sculpted from ice, not much grew this far south, shimmering in the sunlight. A hot spring simmered quietly nearby, with some foliage grappling for a foothold on life growing beside it. Then Bolin caught motion out of the corner of his eyes and was awoken from his reverie. It was the quickest darting of blue against white and rock. "Hey," he called experimentally. "Come back, please." "Why?" Bolin looked up to see a young woman standing on the top of a large rock beside the hot spring. He was tempted to gently tip her from the rock with his earthbending, but he resisted. "Are you Kita?" he asked instead. The girl had the look of many members of the Southern Water Tribe. Darkly tanned skin, long hair so brown it was almost black, the rounded face with a prominent nose and high cheekbones. Her eyes shimmered bright blue as she glared at him. His eyes took in her slim, lithe figure. He couldn't help it. He was only a man, after all. She looked whippy and muscular, as many female waterbenders did. Her expression was sour. Her arms were folded across her chest. "Did my father send you to come get me?" she growled. "Well, yes," Bolin admitted, stepping closer. "He said you have chores." "Of course I have chores. I always have chores, which is why I have to sneak away. If he ever gave me a break, I wouldn't have to. I'm supposed to meet with my waterbending teacher in an hour, but I just couldn't stand to be around that shop for one more minute. If you want me to go back, you're going to have to make one hell of a convincing argument." She bent her knees, raising her hands, slender fingers spread. Water from the hot spring burbled up towards her. Bolin eyed the hot water nervously, his own muscles tensed, but he didn't take up a fighting stance. Instead, he adopted an overly casual one. "Hey, your father may have sent me, but it's no skin off my back if you actually make it back to him. Not like he's paying me or anything." He was pleased to see her relax, the water slithering back down into place in the pool. He tried not to show the relief he felt. This was easy enough. He was good at hiding his emotions when he needed to. He fixed the girl with an interested stare. "So, you train with a waterbender?" "That's about the only thing my dad will let me do," the girl grumbled, sitting down cross-legged on her rock. "He barely lets me do that. After my mother died, he insisted that I only go in for training or use my waterbending to help in the shop. I make the inventory, you know, all those clay vases. I use waterbending to make them." Bolin was impressed, and he let it show on his face. "You do?" "My mother used to," said Kita, still looking grumpy. "But now I have to, and it's driving me insane. So I escape." "I see," Bolin said, smiling at her in a friendly manner. "My name's Bolin, by the way." He widened his stance, and with a tugging motion of his arm, he tipped the girl off the rock. Her reflexes were quick, and Snow swirled up to meet her and bring her gently to the ground. She folded her arms again, but Bolin could see the eager smile twitch on her lips. "Bolin, huh?" She tried to sound disdainful as she looked him up and down, her arms still folded. Then her eyes got very wide and a huge grin broke past her defenses. "So you're a fire ferret?" Bolin was a little surprised. Not many people in the tribe knew about pro-bending. He puffed out his chest. "Why, yes, I am," he said. "Not you, him." Kita pointed to Pabu, who had stuck his head out from Bolin's collar. Suddenly something small and white plummeted down from the sky with a thin shriek and struck at Bolin's chest. Kita gasped and jumped, attempting to catch the creature as it circled around to attack again. Bolin was completely taken off guard, blinking confusedly as the thing came around, small talons spread towards him. Before the mystery attacker could strike again, Kita had snatched it from the air, clamping both hands around the struggling and squeaking bundle of white feathers and fur. "Prin, no! We do not eat fire ferrets. That's very naughty. Don't make me freeze you into an ice cube," she warned. The little creature stopped struggling and glared at the lump that was Pabu hiding in Bolin's coat. "I am so sorry," Kita gasped exasperatedly. What a naughty creature you are, Prin. What is that? Bolin asked, intrigued. Owlbat. Kita held up her pet for Bolin to see. It had the body and white feathers of a miniature snowy owl. It glared with huge yellow eyes and clacked a hooked beak. 2 cupped bat ears stuck out of the feathers on its head, and instead of bird wings, membranous bat wings were trapped beneath Kita's thumbs. She usually isn't so rude. She just saw your fire ferret as food. Kita held the owlbat in one hand, then reached into a pocket and pulled out some thin leather straps. She looped one over the creature's leg, pulling it tight, then hooked the other end to a buckle on her glove. She held out her arm and perched Prin on it. The creature made a happy little chirp and sidled up Kita's arm to nuzzle her cheek. Sorry again, she smiled at Bolin. She's really cute, Bolin announced. He loved animals. He would have asked to hold Prin, were he not worried how Pabu would react. You're an earthbender? Kita asked, clasping her hands behind her back. I am indeed. Bolin struck a pose. He could never resist showing off. With ease, he lifted the rock that Kita had been perched upon out of the snow, moved it several feet, and set it down with a heavy thud. Displaced snow showered them. Well, it showered him. Kita had redirected the snow, which would have struck her onto him as well. She laughed, hiding her mouth behind her hand. Bolin was struck by her laugh. Uneven and a little silly sounding, but so true. Her eyes shimmered when she laughed, and Bolin felt himself blushing. He deflected by grabbing 2 sticks and pretending to be a snowman, which only made her laugh harder. She was in fits when he earthbent some small stones up to be his smiling snowman face. She held her side, doubled over. Bolin felt his blush deepen, and he admonished himself. He had a girlfriend. Kita straightened, tears of mirth in her eyes. Her cheeks were also red, though from merriment Bolin knew. Kita held out her arms, and with a swift downward motion she had stripped the snow from Bolin and left him feeling dry and warm. I've never trained with another type of bender before, Kita admitted, her expression eager. Want to? Sure, Bolin answered before he could even think about whether this was a good idea. Soon the 2 of them were comparing technique and practicing variations of the moves they both knew. Kita tried the wider, more grounded stance Bolin had shown her. She stood behind him, arranging his arms. She then reached forward and covered his hands with hers, positioning his fingers. You move too firmly. Flow, like a river, she said. She guided his arms. Instead of lifting a rock, or even small stones, a fine silt of earth rose up from under the snow, like dust. It clung together in a stream, almost like a water whip. Cool, Bolin managed. He was blushing again, feeling her arms around his shoulders, guiding his hands. He was glad she was behind him and could not see. He let her guide him, turning his hands palm up to make the thin stream of earth rise, then palm down again to bring it gently to the snow, leaving a swirling pattern where it landed. Okay, that was cool, Kita crowed, clapping Bolin on the back. Prin peeped appreciatively at her master's happiness. Bolin turned and gave her a big lopsided grin. No kidding. I don't know why I never tried this before. Water and earthbending styles work pretty well together. I wonder if I could use any of that in my pro-bending. Pro-bending? Kita cocked her head, her dark hair falling over one eye. Bolin had to keep from exclaiming how cute she looked in that moment. He was done wearing his heart on his sleeve. I'm not only the owner of a fire ferret, I'm a member of the pro-bending team called the Fire Ferrets. I've heard of pro-bending, Kita said, leaning up on her toes in her excitement. Her face was close to his, and he backed up a step, nervous. I've always dreamed about leaving the city and going to Republic City to go see pro-bending. Well, that and everything else Republic City has to offer. I just want to get out of here, she said, her expression fierce. Doesn't your dad need you to help in his store? Bolin questioned, pulling a rock over with his bending and sitting down. Kita plopped casually down beside him. He wasn't used to girls being so easygoing around him. Korra had been, and look where it had gotten him. He scooted away fractionally. He was going to be more guarded this time. I don't care about the stupid store, Kita announced. That was my parents' dream. I'm a different person. I've got to be free. I'm like an otter gull. I gotta swim and fly. She spread her arms for emphasis. So, Bolin, teach me some pro-bending moves. Sure, he said, standing up, a little thrown by her hasty change of subject. Kita dropped her hands, which had been poised for waterbending. She glanced toward the sky. Oh, wait. I'm late for my waterbending lesson with Mira, the village healer. My mother wanted me to be a healer, so she had me taking lessons with Mira. Mom and Mira had taught me basically everything I know, she smiled thinly. Which isn't much. You seem like you're a really good waterbender to me, Bolin said before he could stop himself. Kita grinned, wide and crooked, just like he did. So I'll see you around, Bolin? She asked as she turned to walk away. Sure, of course, he spluttered. What happened to playing coy? Her eyes, that's what happened. He quickly looked at his hands, then back up, and she was gone.